Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop. My name is Ashif. I work at the Dean's Office at the Colin Powell School. I help a little bit out with career and professional development. And this is our final workshop of the three-part workshop that's being facilitated by our partners at JP Morgan Chase. And today's session is on financial literacy. It's being hosted by Mr. Whittaker Mack III, who's the Vice President in Investment Services at JP Morgan Securities. So Whittaker is a New York native. He's attended high school in Queens. He went on to graduate from Duke University and got an MBA from Fordham. He's been with the firm for the past 11 years now and working as a private client advisor. He's a certified financial planner. He manages high net worth clientele, and he's also been a registered representative for the NFL Players Association since 2018. And aside from what he does in the private sector, he also plays a really large role in Harlem. He co-sponsored hundreds of medical education lectures within the Harlem-based medical centers and clinics. He's been a guest speaker at financial literacy seminars within local Harlem community centers. And he was honored as a um, New York City community leader by the Concerned Women of Brooklyn, and received a congressional record from Congressman Adolphus Towns for his work as a board chairperson for the Urban Resource Institute. There's more, but then we'd run out of time. So he's just a fantastic person overall. So Mr. Whittaker, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to have you, and I'll pass the mic on to you. Oh, I think you're muted.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Technical issues. Do you have the slides? Because I can't share from mine.
Yeah, I do. I can go ahead and give me 1 second and I'll go ahead and get those started for you. Okay. And you can just tell me when to move to the next slide.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay.
Thank you so much. And once again, everyone, I'm of the capabilities of interacting, but I would hope this would be a very interactive lecture and not just me talking, because I can't talk for that long. Today, hopefully, what we'll get out of this is some awareness of investments and awareness of banking, awareness of budgeting, and just how to maintain a lifestyle and grow and maximize your own savings going forward for people of your age group. Next slide. So, like we said, why keep your money in the bank, right? Why would somebody not just keep the money in their wallet, keep the money in the house? It's really due to safety, right? In today's day and age, safety, convenience, cost, security is all paramount. People have a little cell phone with Samsung Pay. People have other opportunities to try to, maintain their money in a safe and secure manner where you can always see it. Next slide. So, bank versus check cashing services. A lot of people, especially in our neighborhood, will go and say, you know what, I don't want to keep my money in the bank. I just want to get my check, cash it, keep the cash, and stop operating that way. Well, that's one way to do it for ease and quickness, but we also want to look at efficiency, right? Check cashing place will charge you a fee, as you see the fees here, and those fees add up. So you're paying somebody to actually use your money, which is not a good idea. Next slide. So we're going to quickly talk about banking and how to balance your checkbook. Earn $100, you spend $50, you pay a bank fee. How much do you have left? right? Next slide. In today's day and age, especially during the COVID, we have to protect ourselves because people are opportunists and are always looking for a way to try to, get an advantage of you, right? So we're seeing a lot more emails. We're seeing what we call phishing emails. So an email you may or may not, it may look familiar to you. It may come from Chase or Wells Fargo or Citibank. And you're like, oh, I don't remember doing that, but I'll click on it. And once you click on it, now all of your contact information is now being transported to some other site. People are using scams. The common scam now is, oh, you've ordered something on Amazon. Did you really order it? And you give them your account information, and they're like, oh, you're right, it's not you. But meanwhile, you gave them your account information, and now that information is then sent to some scammer who's hacked into your account or hacked into your email. Right? God forbid, your phone is actually shut down because some scammer just randomly took your information. Or skimming. People, they might not hit you for the quick $100 or $200. They may hit you for $2 or $3 and just quickly take $2 or $3 from you, or order stuff on your behalf through Amazon. And you're like, oh, I don't remember ordering that, but okay, it's only $2 or $3. But meanwhile, they're taking money from you. Next slide. So these are the main topics we want to talk today. We're going to try to get through all of them. 5. Next slide, please. First and foremost, as a financial advisor, I tell my clients the number one opportunity for success is not picking the best stock, not picking the best portfolio, but actually budgeting, right? So, I have clients that, make a couple $100 a year, and I have clients $50,000 or $60,000 a year. The ones who budget and plan and save the most are my most successful clients. So, I have a client who's a transplant surgeon. The wife's is a physician as well. They have 6 kids. 3 of them are in graduate school, medical school, law school, or graduate school. But they live paycheck to paycheck because medical school, all of the expenses, the maintaining the nanny, maintaining a house, the $1.4 million they make goes all to bills. Now, I have teachers who make $60,000 or $70,000 a year, but they save 30 to 40% of their salaries and have been doing so for 20, 30 years. They actually have more spending money than the people who make $1 million a year. And that's because of budget. Next slide. So what is a budget? It's a simple plan of what to do with your money. You know how much is coming in, and you know how much is going out. Now I'm going to give you guys a simple exercise. Next slide. How to, right? So what I want you guys to do, and I'm going to start to pick on some people here. I got Asante. Your name was first there on the list, right? That's what you get. My name was a Whittaker, so people don't get a chance to pick on me because I was way down on the list. So I'm going to pick on you, Asante. What do you think is an ideal budget for yourself?
Okay. So I guess you have to think about several factors, right? What you spend monthly and how much you make. So for me currently, I guess I could make a budget to save towards something. So I don't know. Maybe.
Do you currently know what type of budget you have now? Do you know what kind of income you bring in? Do you have an allowance or do you have a job currently?
No.
Okay. Do you have a goal? Do you have a goal in mind of what you want to buy in the future?
Yes, I do.
Could you share one goal that you would want to buy in the future? Small or large?
I would say it's large. Well, I want an apartment eventually, or a home. So that's pretty big.
Thank you very much for sharing that with me, Asante. Let me go to somebody else. How about you, Angela?
Hi. I agree with her. I would say my next step, I would like to have rent an apartment. That's something that I'm looking forward to. Yeah. Mhm.
What about you, Gene?
I would have to agree with Shanti and Angela. More short term, probably cut down on debt, and then a little more long term is I personally am trying to get a condo, so that's what I'm sort of saving for long term a little bit.
Awesome. All right, look, somebody else. How much? Are you there, Kayla?
Sorry, I was talking to my mom at that moment. So a long-term goal for me, it would be like everyone's saying to eventually have my own home, but I'm also trying to create a business. So having that cash flow for the business that I'm trying to create. Right now it's very in the fundamental early stages, so there's no nothing to show right now.
Absolutely. So, I'm glad you guys at least get the concept of having those goals, right? Of, why it's important to try to create a budget, right? So I put myself in your place and I think about things that I want to save for. I want to save for my first car. I want to save to take my first trip, to get away from my parents, right? That was my first goal. How much money did I need to do that, right? So I wanted to go to, I was in college, I wanted to go to Hilton Head. And I know I needed at least 150 bucks. So I had to work and save a couple of things. At that point in time, I didn't even understand the concept of banking, right? I had a check from working on campus, and it was at North Carolina. I had an actual checking account with Wachovia. So I took my check, my paycheck, and I deposited it in the NCNB, which was North Carolina National Bank. I didn't know. I just went to the first ATM I went, deposited my check. 2 days later, they called me. I was like, sir, you can't just deposit your check in any bank. So I was kind of embarrassed, but I learned, right? We learned these things. Next slide. So, I'm sure you don't say this as much as maybe your parents or whoever, your guardians would say, but where does the money come from each month, right? Do you each understand how much money it costs each month to keep you in the situation you're in? So I'm going to pick on Myra Vasquez.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Hi. How much money do you think it costs to maintain your lifestyle each month in terms of feeding you, keeping the lights on, the water, the gas, the clothes on your back? How much do you think? And just a rough estimate. $100, $500, $1,000.
I think definitely more than 2,000, considering like rent is like 2,000. So adding to that food,
Good question.
clothes,
don't
and
have to
everything else.
rent, but I'm just saying how much money it costs to feed you every day. Do you have an idea of all of that?
Uh,
Are you a big eater?
I guess, yeah. But then like my family, I have a big family, so we have to like accommodate for everyone. So I guess like 500 a week for food or something like that.
So, and all of us, we probably don't have a really sense because we're not paying that out, right? So that is a true sense of not aware of our surroundings, right? And there's something as as children, you probably are not going to be aware of, right? But I want you guys to start to think of that awareness. How much is it really costing my parents for me to do certain things? So, I want to go, play hockey. Or I want to go play tennis next year, or I want to join the track team, or I want to join this art class, or I want to go on a trip. or I want to go out with my friends and we want to, go to the movies. Start to think about those costs. Not to say that you shouldn't spend money, but start to think of the other side of the equation of, like, mom and dad, or whoever's taking care of me is really working hard to maintain this lifestyle for me. What can I do to help them? Do I have a concept of how much it's costing them each month for me to do these things? I know I go to them and say, hey, mom, dad, give me $20 so I can go to the movies. But do I really have an understanding how much that's really costing in the end, right? Next slide. So, what I tell my clients, and I tell you guys, is try to gain control of your finances. Did I really need to order an Uber to go 15 blocks, right? I have people who, they take an Uber anywhere. But could I have walked? Could I have taken the subway? Did I really need to get there? Could I have, carpooled with did I really need to go to Starbucks this morning? Or could I have just made my coffee and my cereal and a snack? Did I really need to buy the super duper gelati olives at Trader Joe's, or could I got the regular dinner at the corner store? Could I have brought my lunch to school today, or did I really have to go to McDonald's and Wendy's and do that for myself? So next slide. So this is a spending diary, and this is what I would like for each of you to do, right? For the next week or 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks, let's try 2 weeks. Write down every single thing that you spend, right? Just try to get an estimate every single day. This is something you keep to yourself. You don't have to share it with anybody else, but just to get an estimate of what you spend your money on each week. And then at the end of that 2 weeks, pull this piece of paper out and look at it and try to say, wow, I didn't realize I was spending that much on Starbucks. Or I didn't realize I was spending that much on hanging out and dinners outside of home. Try to understand what your actually spending habits are, right? When you look at your cell phone and you say, oh, I have the new iPhone 12 or the new Samsung GS20. How much that really costs me or my parents to maintain? Did I really need that type of phone, or am I using? Is it helping me somehow? Next slide. So, how many people know who this person is on the bottom left? Anybody?
Sierra's husband.
Very good. Absolutely. That is Sierra's husband, Russell Wilson. He's the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. How many people understand how much Russell Wilson makes per year? Just from football.
This is like 37 a year.
37 million a year. Absolutely. So let me call her Michelle. Michelle Obing, am I saying that right?
Obing, yes. What was the question again? How much he makes? But didn't they already answer it? I'm sorry.
So what is unique? Do you know what's unique about a football player, unlike myself or any other most employees?
What's unique about people in sports, athletes, when it comes to their money?
Just in particular football players.
Particular football players?
I'll share with you. Football players only get paid 17 weeks per year. All right. So August 15th through the end of the year, through January, they get paid once a week. So that's $17 million that he gets paid. He divides that between those 17 weeks. How many weeks are in a year?
52.
52.
Two, right? So what is he going to possibly do for those other 35 weeks that he does not get a paycheck?
Commercials.
Budget.
Commercials or whatever, right? But if you don't have a paycheck coming in 35 weeks a year, it is ultimately important to have a budget, right? Because not everybody is Russell Wilson, right? He's only one of 32 people in the world that's going to get a paycheck of $37 million to play football, right? Only one of 32 people. So the other 10 billion people that are on the planet have to really work on a budget of getting paid once a week or once every other week. He has to work on a budget of once every 17 weeks, right? So it's ultimately important for people to take care of their money and realize that just because he's receiving $2 million a week, he's not going to receive it for 52 weeks. Next slide. So we look at a player here. This is a sample player who earns $2 million a year. And you're like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. But once again, he's earning only 17 weeks, right? So if he's earning $2 million a year, and you see in this slide here, his paycheck is only $30,000 for that week, right? You would think, oh my God, the guy's making $2 million a year. That's a lot of money. But he's got a lot of different deductions he has to pay, because when you get paid $2 million a year, but you only get paid in a compressed time frame, he has a higher tax that he has to pay. So taxes come out first, the government got to get paid first, and then he's got to start worrying about retirement. How many people know the average lifespan, not a lifespan, but work span of an NFL athlete?
And then like 5 years.
Correct, right? So if you're 21 years old and you're getting paid, your first paycheck is very small because you get what they call a rookie contract. So not many people make it past their rookie contract of 3 or 4 years, which means they're now 24, 25 years old. This person was fortunate enough to get a second contract where they're making $2 million a year, but most people don't make it that far, right? The NFL draft is coming up, so that's why I'm a little football centric, plus I'm a registered advisor for some football people, right? So these people are not going to make it to the next contract. So most of them are not even making $2 million a year. Think about what their paychecks look like, a lot less than the $29,000 a year, right? But everybody in their family, in the community, is like, oh, you got a $2 million contract. We saw it reported in the paper. We want to throw a party. Let's all go to the finest restaurant, and the restaurant bill comes out to be $15,000. What do you think this player is thinking? Like, wow, I just spent half my paycheck on taking everybody out to dinner. Next slide. So some of you talked about your goals, right? Talked about, I want to buy a house, I want to buy a condo, I have to pay rent, I want to save for college. We talk about time frames, right? Some things are short term, like I can do within the next 2-3 years, and some things I know I could do within 40 years. So for me, I'm 54, right? I'm thinking about retirement hopefully within the next 10 to 15 years, so I can not have to work anymore. For you guys, that's gonna be a lot longer, right? Can you imagine to get to 65? It's gonna take you 50 years to get there. My entire lifetime before you guys get to retirement. How many people are scared by that? Right? Also, it's not always about us, right? So I'm not just thinking about me. I want to think about my legacy, right? So that's where estate planning comes in. What do I want to leave behind? Next slide. So we talk about investing. Next slide. right? So not only does the budgeting go hand in hand, but what I do with my money, right? And this is what I call investing 101, the basics of all investing. The three things of investing: safety, liquidity, and growth, right? And we talk about all three of them, but you cannot have all three. Let's call somebody else here. Irene, why do you think you can't have all three?
Oh, I don't know. Like, I think you have to like decide which ones are priority. It's hard to get the three of them at the same time.
That is absolutely correct, right? So if anybody promises you they can give you safety, liquidity, and growth, they've been wrong in a prison cell right next to Bernie Madoff. Everybody know who Bernie Madoff is? You know who Bernie Madoff is, David?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, I don't know.
Okay, Bernie Madoff was a guy who had what we call a Ponzi scheme, and he took advantage of a lot of famous people by promising them a lot of things. And when people went to try to get their money back, it was a scheme where in which he had to get money from people in order to give other people their money back, right? So some of you may or may not have seen these type of schemes, right? They call them fake susus sometimes, meaning that they have the earth, the wind, the fire, and you got to get two people in order to give you $100, in order to give somebody else $100, and right, they run these scams all throughout, the community sometimes, and people are like, oh yeah, I can put $100 in because when I get my hand, I'm going to get $4,000. Big scam, because when you can't get your two people, then they're like, oh, we can't pay you because you didn't get your two people. But meanwhile, everybody else is done taking the money and pocket it. So exactly right, Irene, you have to pick and prioritize your goals on which two that you want, right? So for me, I'm 54. It may be important that I have my money sooner.
Seems like we got a hacker.
Okay. There we go. We'll mute somebody. There we go. All right. So maybe we will. My goals are not going to be exactly the same as other people's goals, right? So I may need my money sooner than somebody else. They can invest longer. So liquidity may not be as important. May be important for me, but not as important for you guys, right? For you guys, I would say growth may be important because you got time on your. Now, if we look at the stock market today, the stock market is almost double what it was the same time this last year. I don't know if you guys are aware of it or not, but the stock market crashed after COVID last year. COVID was announced somewhere in February. The market hit its lowest mark on March 23rd of last year. But today it's almost double, right? So next slide. So how do you choose somebody to invest with and help you with your goals, right? Somebody like myself. I say, once again, it's the power of three. Trust. And you look them in the eye and know that you guys have some common goals, or they just somebody who really wants to get money from you or money from your parents and really don't have your goals in mind. Capability, we're here at JP Morgan. I think we have a lot of capabilities, but we may not be for everyone. There are some things that we can do and some things we can't do. There are credit unions, like for your teachers. There's credit unions for service professionals in the military, and they do things that Chase cannot do. Knowledge. I have my little pin here on. I'm a CFP. I'm a certified financial planner. That means I have the highest level of education for doing what I do in terms of advising. I just got another certification, wealth management certification professional. All these degrees mean nothing unless I can actually utilize them on help people like yourself. Next slide. There are different types of investing, right? Because there are different types of goals. So we talk about possibly paying for school. So whether it's for your kids, soon to have kids, your grandchildren, there's ways to invest for those people. There's ways to invest for retirement. We talk about, you'll hear these numbers: 401k, 403b, 457, 414. These are sections of the tax code of the IRS. There's Roth, there's traditional IRAs. These are different ways to retirement funds. Once again, not only for me, but if I want to plan for the future, there's ways of giving gifts. How many people have heard of like major foundations like Robin Hood, or the Vanderbilt Foundation, or the Rockefeller Foundation, or the Ford Foundation? These are major foundations that were created by people hundreds of years ago, try to help benefit not only their families, but benefit others. So we save now, and hopefully we can give back later in a different way. Next slide, please. All right. So looking at those goals, if they're short-term goals, I want to buy a laptop. I want to help somebody for their birthday coming up. Midterm goals, what I'm going to do when I go to school in 2 years, or I want to buy a car. Or long-term goals, how do I want to, take care of my family or myself when I retire? Let's go back to somebody here. I'm doing a lot of talking here. Let's go to Diana. Are you there, Diana? All right, let's go to Brianna.
Hi, how are you?
Outstanding, Brianna. What type of short-term goal do you have for yourself?
As of the moment, the closest short-term goal I think would just be buying a new car.
Okay, what type of car, mind me asking?
I originally leased a 2020 Hyundai Tucson, and then I gave the car back because we moved, and now I realize that I need it again. So I think I want to buy a new car, but preferably a used one, just so that my lease payments aren't as high. So I guess my budget for the month would be like $300.
Awesome. All right. So thank you very much for sharing that with me, Brianna. So Brianna's goal is to have a car, right? A payment in mind, which is great. Now, in that $300, do we also include car insurance? Do we include maintenance of the car? I just took my car to the shop yesterday. I have a Mercedes SUV, and the guy did my brakes, and then he said did an oil change, and he's like, oh, that'll be $600. And of course, my guy wants to be paid all in cash. I'm like, oh, I don't know where to get an ATM. I have to go find an ATM and pay him in cash. But that was just, regular maintenance, changing brakes and oil change.
That's why I want a Hyundai and not a Mercedes. Parts are too expensive.
Absolutely. And that is a great way of saving money, right? And having that mindset already is going to show, it's already showing me that you have an awareness of what your budget is, and that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, Brianna. Next slide. So, another activity, I call it homework for you guys. Write down at least one goal each, short term, midterm, and long term of a goal, and then all of the different things that you think will help you accomplish that goal. How much do you need to save? What type of research you need to do to make sure this is a good investment? And then how would you invest the money? does that sound good? Sound like a good idea?
Sounds good.
What do you think, Antonio?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Right now, my focus is on looking at investment property because I want to eventually go into flipping cabins as vacation rentals.
Okay, awesome. So there's a couple of things with real estate you want to keep in mind. State laws, right? Some state laws prevent flipping, right? They put extra taxes on it. They call it a flipping tax, just to prevent people from buying and selling houses in a short period of time. So some people go and they want, oh, I'm just going to go flip a $30,000 house, but they don't realize there's a $4,500 tax if you have to sell a house within 6 months, right? So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind in terms of working with an accountant of how much money is in play at one period of time, right? So you go to flip a house and you didn't sell a house, but you want to buy another house. How much money are you holding up? Because it's not necessarily a totally liquid situation. It's not like this, I'm going to sell a house and buy. You have to pay commissions and all the things like that, right? So when you have that goal, whether that's a short or long-term goal, have all of the different things that could possibly help or hurt you in terms of making that goal. Thanks for sharing that, Antonio. Next slide. So perfect segue, setting goals. Next slide. So I want to buy a laptop in 10 months. I know it cost me $450. It's not just as simply as running down to Best Buy and buying a laptop. Maybe I will save for it because I know I need it, but I have to put away a certain amount of money. I want to buy a car. Just like Brianna shared with us. I know what type of car I have or what car I want, but how much is it really going to cost me to maintain it, right? Not all cars are created equal, right? If we talk about my Mercedes, just to change a tire sometimes it costs me $500. But I like it, and I don't have any kids, so that's my toy. That's the things I'm willing to sacrifice. But before I got that toy, I made sure I had a house first, right? I made sure I had other goals and things in mind. So if I'm going to have a goal and I want to accomplish something, just like that, you can't have safety, liquidity, and growth. I can't have my car without sacrificing something else, right? So by me having my car, I'm going to sacrifice doing something else because I wish I had all money that I can just do what I want with it. But, my wife makes sure that I can't spend all my money on one thing. Next slide. When we make these goals, it's important to make them smart, right? And what do I mean by smart? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So, as Antonio shared his goal of flipping houses, that now to make it a smart goal, he knows exactly what he wants to do in terms of flipping houses, but let's put a time limit. I want to buy at least 2 cabins over the next 6 months, and I want to spend $30,000 to $40,000 on each one of them, and I want to be able to fix them up and sell them within 2 to 3 months, right? So it's specific, it's measurable, and I have a time frame to it. Versus I want to make $1 million flipping homes. That is, it's a possibility, and it may be realistic, but it's not specific enough to really put on a piece of paper and say I can do that, right? So we want to be as specific as possible, and I say this in terms of all phases of life. If you have a goal, have that goal so realistic in your mind that when you obtain it, it's almost like, wow, I was wearing a different color suit when I attained this goal, right? Golfers or sports people, they have goals of winning. So Tiger Woods, I love golf. When he played the Masters and he won for the very first time in I think it was 97. he envisioned playing the course in his mind, each shot, each shot that he would make, each putt, almost down to where he was going to be, where he was going to recover. And when he won, in his mind, he won playing a 67. In his mind, he's like, well, when I played in my mind, I was going to shoot this score, right? He had down to what he was going to wear on the day, his outfit, what the weather was going to look like. People, when they realize promotions, I'm going to get promoted to be a managing director. I'm going to do that within 2.5 years. This is the salary I want to make. This is the division I want to make. This is what my office is going to look like. Have that, that vision of what it looks like. That way it becomes more real. And if it's not real enough, then you have to start to figure out what's missing. I said I wanted to be, a structural engineer, but I haven't even started taking classes, right? So as Taylor said, sounds like a vision board. Absolutely. You have to have that vision board to the exact detail. I want to buy a boat. What's that boat look like? Is it a 30-foot boat? Is it a 70-foot boat? Is it white? Is it made out of wood? Is it made out of aluminum? Is it here in New York? Is it in Barcelona dock? What is that goal that you want to envision? Next slide. Right, so this just goes down to realizing that goal. Oh, went too far. Next slide. So having more than one goal, this is almost like a diary, and for some people it may be too much. Like you feel like you're exposing yourself to failure, or exposing yourself to people coming in your life and finding out your goals and laughing at you. These goals are yours, and you can keep them as secure as in your phone, or you can write them down. Have a vision board up. How many of you guys have a vision board? Who has a vision board out of all of you guys? Let's go to Amarfi. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you are.
Awesome.
I
You have a vision board?
I don't have a vision board.
Okay. I see some pictures in the background though.
That's just a regular painting.
Thanks very much for sharing with you as well. But think about surrounding yourself with some of these things that are positive images, right? So that image behind you is a positive one. It looks like, I don't know if that's Chicago.
I think it's just the New York City skyline. I don't know.
You want to surround yourself with positive things, so that's great. We see the commercials on TV with live, love, laugh, and, fussing, no cussing, no back talking, and people throw it away, right? I personally believe in surrounding yourself with little positive thoughts and positive images, right? Absolutely, Rose. Mindset is everything. Next slide. Next slide. All right. So everyone, I would say get a little book. I have one. I'll see if I can possibly get one to each one of you guys. But it's just a little notebook, right? A little notebook. And in this notebook, in addition to writing down what you spent for the last 2 weeks, write down a couple of goals. Like I said, your short-term, your long-term goals. But on each piece of paper here, have one goal, and then everything that you're going to need to make that goal realistic, right? The specific, the measurable, the attainable, right? The timeliness, what that goal looks like. Keep this journal. Keep it to yourself. Share it with others if you would like. Share it with myself. Share it with somebody that's going to help you obtain these goals. Don't share it with somebody who's going to you want to do what? Oh, that's stupid. Oh, I can't believe you did it. You don't want those people in your life. They don't matter. People who are going to say, wow, that's a great goal. I got some ideas. I can try to help you with those folks. Those are the people you want in your life to help you, right? People who are going to be able to help you realize your vision and help you build that vision. Somebody's going to tear down that vision? No. Next slide. Next slide. So if we have goals, that means we want to possibly spend something. We have to get there, right? There's a lot of ways to get there. And one of those ways is debt. There's good debt, obviously, and there's bad debt. But debt overall means we owe somebody something, which is not always a bad thing. But if debt is out of control because we have not taken care of the first part, the budget, then it becomes a bad thing, right? So next slide. Let me go to somebody here. Let's see here. Dana, it's Lightborn.
Yes.
How you doing, Miss Lightborn? So give me an idea of some bad debt. What does bad debt look like to you in your mind?
Bad debt to me is unnecessary credit card spending. And Uber, that's a bad debt. I found myself taking Uber unnecessarily, and I'm not even talking about like $20. We're talking about $116 rides here and there. So the spending was, quite a bit. I'm still paying for that particular debt,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you very much for sharing that with me, Dana. I'm gonna pick on my wife, because I'm married, right? That's what we do. That's what our husbands do. My wife, when I first met her, she would go shopping. She would have a package sitting on her doorstep every single day. She loves to shop, right? But when I go, when I'm fortunate enough to go shopping with her, the stores, and I didn't realize these until I became a financial advisor. These stores offer you such great deals. Oh, today, if you buy $100, we'll give you our own credit card, whether it's Macy's or she shops at New York and Company or Zara or Ulta Beauty, right? All of these, every single store you go into probably has their own credit card. And they're going to give you 20% off if you buy that credit card today and with the purchase. Why is that a bad idea, Dana?
It's a bad idea. First of all, the interest rate is ridiculous. Off the top, it's like 30%, so that's what we fail to realize when we get ourselves into these jams. And also, it's not a major credit card. So you're really like short on where you can, if you have an overstock card like I do, I can only, overstock, maybe that's not the best example, but because they have a variety of things, but something like the Gap, that you can only buy clothes there. If you had an emergency, you don't have the available funds on your credit card, if need be.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. And there's a reason why they want to give you those credit cards, right? They're not giving you 20%. You're spending 80%, right? I want you guys to understand it's not a sale. It's just a reduced buy, right? But you're still buying. And sometimes, even with that quote unquote sale, you're buying more stuff than you would normally buy because you're like, I could just put it on a credit card. I normally wouldn't spend $350 for clothes, but since I can put it on this credit card and I only pay $20 a month, then I'll buy it. Meanwhile, if they didn't offer you the credit card and they said, you're rejected, you wouldn't buy it. You walk out of the store, you'd be humbled, but you would live, right? Next slide. So, as I look at one of my other colleagues sitting here almost close to me, he's a loan officer. And the first thing he looks at is debt to income, right? So remember I talked about the two physicians in the two-physician household making $1 million a year. They make $1 million a year, but when you look at their debt, they have student loans, they have 4 or 5 car notes, for the three or four kids that are in the house, and their income is high, but the debt is also high, and that can ruin their ability to get a mortgage. So if they want a $1 million mortgage, right, and their payments are say $6,000 a month, great. You know, they make $1 million a year, so their income is $200,000 a month, right? However, if they look at their debt and their car notes and the credit cards and everything else, their debt might be another, you know, $50,000 or $60,000 a month. So now, instead of just $6,000 a month, you know, the Chase and every other mortgage company is going to want to know, can they afford to pay their mortgage? And if they look at their, you know, taxes and everything else, they might not qualify. So, you know, that simple credit card to get some clothes may prevent you from getting your house or your condo that you need, right? So that's very, very important to consider when you start to look at all of your debt, right? Trust me, when you go apply for a mortgage, they will find every single little credit card that you have, every little debt, you know, all the stuff that you may have borrowed from your pension, your 401k, Chase and all other companies, they will find every single debt. You know, they'll find the library card that you owed from 1985. They will find that, right? And that will count against you getting a mortgage or, you know, help you get a mortgage, right? Next slide. So you want to know all of these things, right? What's your mortgage? What's your car payment? What's your loan, right? How many times when you went to look for a car, as Brianna was talking about earlier, how many times when you look for a car did they run your credit report, right? Every time they run your credit report, that may not be so good, because now it's lowering your credit score, and it may prevent you from, instead of getting your car, it may prevent you from getting a home. You know, all those little credit cards, as Dana talked about, this little small department credit cards or small department stores, they may also prevent you from getting next slide. Right. So tips. We want to always carry tips of how to manage our money. First, you want to I say first and foremost, you want to understand your money. So that was the first exercise. You want to get that little diary, right, and track your spending for the next couple of weeks. Understand where your money's going. The next, you want to, and most importantly, create that budget, right? A budget is almost like a plan, and everybody that's successful has a plan. Most importantly, if you don't have a plan, then you don't know where you're going, right? It's almost like a roadmap for your life, right? Next, prioritize your bills, review your budget monthly. Sometimes, things happen in life, with this pandemic especially, we can't always expect emergencies, right? So we want to make sure that we have emergencies covered. And there's an interesting statistic that I learned maybe about 2-3 years ago. It says that about 60% of people here in America, if they had an unexpected $400 bill, that could be like me fixing my car with the tires blowing out, or the lights, electricity going out in the house, or plumbing thing, could not pay that bill without incurring debt. What does that mean? Let's go to somebody. Let's go back to Ashanti. What does that mean, Ashanti? If I would incur a $400 bill and I couldn't do it without incurring debt, what does that mean to you?
Well, if you have a bill and you can't incur debt?
I have a $400 bill. Like I get a bill, like
right.
The tire blows out, or something happens in electricity, or something happens with my plumbing, and I can't pay that bill without incurring debt.
Well, that means that you have to go over, your spending habits. You have to go over how you spend, or you can, if you can't, find any more places to cut for your expenses, maybe just find more ways to make money. So you can be able to cover those expenses that come up out of nowhere. But, savings definitely something that you should save up, put away.
Absolutely. So what it truly means is that 60% of America has less than $400 in savings. $400 in savings, right? So when they look at their account and they have to go into their savings account and the bill is over $400, they can't pay for it without putting the bill on the credit card or borrowing some type of money from somewhere, putting it on layaway or paying it down over a period of time, getting on a payment plan. And that is scary, right? So, when we talk about having a budget and understanding where our money is spent, just think about that. If something happens, what is our security mechanism? How will we help, take care of that problem? So thanks very much for Shanti for sharing that. Next slide. Next slide. All right. So very, very important. As I talked about my colleague who is a lending officer, we talk about credit score. So we have our budget, we have our goals, and we understand our debt. Very important to understand our debt because when it comes to our debt, we have a credit score. And how many? I would assume everybody on here has a credit card. Maybe one, maybe two, maybe several. We want to understand that there are people, at least 3 credit card agencies out there: Equifax, TransUnion, and I forget what the other one is.
CreditWise.
Sorry?
CreditWise is used by Capital One.
No, there's 3.
Experian.
Thank you, Brianna. So the 3 credit companies out there, that's their whole job, is to make sure they understand a credit score, right? And credit scores are different, right? So you might have one credit score with TransUnion, you might have a totally different one with Experian, and you might have a totally different one with Equifax, right? Because they, unlike all others, they have different information. What's the age of the credit cards that you have? Do you have a lot of new ones? Do you have ones that have, if you have for a long period of time? So when you're considering which credit card I don't need that credit card anymore. Let me get rid of it. And that's your New York company, right? I'll get rid of that, but that might be your longest credit card in terms of age. You've had that credit card since you were a teenager and you maintained it, versus you just opened a Visa card with Chase or Wells Fargo, and it's not going to count as much as that card that you had for 15 years. Credit card utilization, very, very important, because while you may pay your credit card every month, you keep bumping up against your credit limit. Not a great idea, right? So if your credit limit is $1,000 and you keep every month going to $1,000, $1,200, but you pay it off, the credit card company is not going to like that, because you're not using your total credit very well. So it may behoove you to actually say, you know what, why do I even have $1,000 credit limit on this? I make $40,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 a year. Why do I keep bumping up against this credit score, with my Uber account? Because I use this card only for my Ubers, and I keep going over my credit limit with this Uber account before I realize and I pay it down. Call the credit card company, increase that credit line to a credit line that's more amenable to your income and your expenses, right? That will help you more than just keep bumping up against the credit line. Look at your credit history. Sometimes you have that old credit card out there that, thanks very much, Rose. You may have that credit card out there that you haven't realized that you had, because you opened it up 2 years ago and you never paid it, and now it's going to go on your credit score. Next slide. So once again, another activity: write down all of the credit cards that you have. Use a thing like I think one of the people suggested, CreditWise or Credit Karma. These are some of the free non-credit inquiries that's going to report to you, and then see all the credit cards that you may or may not have. Evaluate: is this a good credit card or is this a bad credit card? Right? Is this something I should keep, or is this something I should get rid of? Next slide. That's it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I will leave myself now for questions.
I had a question.
Sure.
So I'm looking to, so I don't know if, so I actually got the job. They offered it to me last week right after the interview. So thanks for everything, everyone. But so I just got offered a full-time job starting after graduation. And they're offering me like, the like 401k and things like that. And I've read that it's really good to start investing early, especially in just the long term. And it's something I want to do. So I've been reading about Roth IRAs, how it's not an investment, it's an investment account. And then with that, you invest in things, but there's like a limit to like 6,000 a year and things like that. And that companies can match what you put in your 401k with them. So I just wanted to know, for someone of our age, what's the best way to start getting into investing, instead of just putting money into a savings account that won't grow the way it could be while investing it?
Absolutely. So I'm making my little, I call it a quad chart. I hope this comes out, but it probably won't come out that well. So I hope you guys can see that. You probably can't see it that well, but anyway, there's 4 quadrants. I call it your emergency fund, call it your retirement fund, call it your gold fund, and I call it your fun fund. Right? And what do I mean by this? You should put your pot of money. You have this big pot of money that you will have, right? First and foremost, you have to take care of their emergency fund. As I talked about, 60% of the people in the U.S. cannot handle a emergency of over $400. It could be detrimental, right? That could be just as simple as, like I said, a plumbing fixture going out. So you have to take care of that, and people recommend emergency fund be 6 months worth of expenses. So if your rent and all your other things is $1,500, you should have at least $9,000 saved in savings, right? That's first and foremost emergency fund. The next is the retirement fund, your 401k. The more that you take your income that you put and you put into your retirement, right? It can change 2 different things. You can retire early by sacrificing your income now, or you say, you know what, I love what I do and I could probably work forever. So you don't put that much in retirement. You put it in other things. So the next category would be goals. Whether it's buying a car, a house, taking care of your kids, those goals. And then I call it, the last box is fun, F-U-N. What am I going to do in terms of, do I want to sacrifice retirement or do I want to take care of fun? So I eat out, I take trips, I buy stuff, I buy fancy stuff, right? That is what you want to do. So in terms of your company, now your 401k, you say, how much do I want to put in there? You can put anywhere from 0 to max it out. And your maximum for this year is $19,500. right? I think that's what you were talking about. And then based on your goals, how aggressive do I want to be with my investing? Right? And that's a whole different thing. That's where you need to see somebody like myself that can help you, understand how aggressive or non-aggressive to invest your funds. Because you're young, Edgar, and I would assume that you have at least 30 to 40 years before you get to 65. So a long-winded answer, but I hope I answered some of your questions.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering if you would be able to just, if we can like talk to you personally just about that, because that's just something I really like. We were talking about short-term, long-term goals. Through the events that have happened the first 3 months of just the new year, it's become a goal of mine. It's obviously a super long-term goal, but it's something that I really just want to get more knowledgeable on. And this mentorship program has been a great first step. Like we learned how to resume tips, and I literally used it last week. And now I wanted to learn more about financial literacy, and Ashif did a great job by having this sit down just to get a brief idea. But I was wondering if we could like sit down with you.
Absolutely. I'm sure Asif can share my contact information. I'd love to help you, whether it's over the phone or in person. I'd love to help you, whatever I can do to help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Whittaker.
So,
Take one more question, and because of the interest of time.
I have one quick question. Mr. Whittaker, I just wanted to get your opinion on like it just recently in the Wall Street Journal there was a man who had opened like multiple accounts with different banks. I think one of them was like TD Bank or whatever. Just to build off of what Edgar was saying of trying to like grow your money versus just putting into savings. And what he essentially did was he just opened up a bunch of accounts at different banks that were offering promotions for him to put his money there. Is that something that you would advise, or do you think that that is risky? But it worked out on his end because he did earn, I think it was like over $300,000 just by opening these accounts and then eventually closing them. Yeah.
So it's risky. I mean, to earn $300,000, he had a couple of million to invest. To spread yourself out like that is kind of almost, I kind of analogous to going to different physicians, right? So if I had, a hearing condition, an eye condition, and a heart condition, and something's wrong with my legs, I wouldn't go to 10 different doctors, right? Maybe if it was specific, like I needed an eye surgeon and I needed a heart surgeon, I would go to an ophthalmologist and I go to a cardiologist. But my first trip would be going to just one internist, right? One internist can help me understand where I go from here. One advisor, one trusted advisor, one person who you trust can help you understand those goals. And most advisors will help you without charging you anything. And that's a myth that, you come to see us or you come to see an advisor and all of a sudden you're going to get a lot of fees and everything else. No, most advisors, good advisors, trustworthy advisors are going to see you, hear you, and design a plan or help you design a plan that's specific to you without you spending any money at all, right? So that person that went to 10 different banks kind of diversified themselves, but he didn't have or she didn't have a truly good plan and a trusted advisor to help them seek what they're trying to goal was. Because instead of making $300,000, they could have made $3 million, or they could have lost $300,000. But you have to have a good advisor in your corner. Regardless of financial advisor, you need a good lawyer, you need a good accountant, you need a good physician, you need a good maintenance person, you need a good mechanic, you need good people in your life, at least one or two good people in your life for each one of those aspects, right? Can every attorney handle everything? No, because an attorney is not going to get you out of jail. He's not going to create a will. He's not going to create an estate plan, right? But you may have three for all. A good accountant is going to help you do your taxes, but he's not going to do your bookkeeping He's not going to do your 401k plan, right? So everybody has their role, but you usually have to start with at least one person. So I hope that answers your question, Brianna.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, Whittaker. This event is recorded, so it's going to be up on our webpage at some point later this week, and I'll send out the link to everyone that I've emailed. And Whittaker, thank you so much for being here and for facilitating this talk.
Sure.
And is it okay if we share your contact info with the students?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And if I do not get a chance to call you, if I don't get a chance to pick up, I will definitely call you back.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Take care and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lydia.